Humans, and welcome to this amazing Awakened and Empowered Women series. This series has the focus of exploring these amazing women who have really helped heal their communities in one way or another. Happy International Women's History Month. This is in the spirit of celebrating all the women who are making history here and now. So I am really excited to have fellow Kayla here on today, celebrating with us, and we're going to dive into 8 questions, diving deep into what makes her tick. First of all, my name is Brianna, and I am a holistic mental health professional with a master's degree in counseling psychology and a certificate in holistic health, and I have dedicated my life to helping people reach their goals. I'm really excited to celebrate other women who have inspired their community in one way or another as well. And we're just going to bring Kayla on here in a few minutes. Got something in my eye. It's cool. There we go. And yeah, this is National Women's Day is next week as well, so I'm excited to share what motivates these women, what inspires them, their fears, what has helped them heal on their journey. There we go. Awesome. And thank you for tuning in today. And of course, please check out the description because that is where you will find all of Kayla's contact info. Hi, Kayla. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
How are you?
I'm good. I just ended my work day, so I'm like decompressing for the day and I'm in a good energy.
Perfect. Good. Well, I'm really happy to have you on here today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the High Vibe humans? Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Kayla Joy. That's what I go by. It's my first and middle name. Joy with an I, which is pretty unique.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Port Huron, Michigan, but I moved to Grand Rapids 11 years ago, and I started school here at Aquinas, and then moved to Grand Valley. I currently work as a business insurance analyst, but I
Oh.
do so many other things outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
I sell jewelry, I make food, and I help people with their personal growth, with like interviews and resumes and just trying to become better
Oh.
versions of themselves. Yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
thank you.
I saw your mac and cheese and I was like, oh my gosh, I really would love some.
Oh, I was so excited to do it. Oh my God. I really wish I could start, and I want to start like a vegan business where I sell like healthier versions of my favorite foods, and mac and cheese is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I thought because I was like, ooh, I wonder if she does like catering.
Hit me up anytime.
Well, awesome. So you really have like lots of hats, lots of different hats that you wear,
Mhm.
but you really do help people focus on their personal growth. Um, so in a way, let's start off pretty easy. What are 5 words that would describe you?
I thought about this. One of them is sensitive. I used to not like being called sensitive, but I embrace it now. I'm a sensitive human being. I'm self-aware, resilient, and I think kind of odd. And I say odd just because I think we're all different and I have my own little
Mhm.
oddities. But then most importantly, I'm just human. I'm an imperfect human.
Imperfect human. I love those words. Those are all great words, especially odd. It's like embracing it. Like weird is another way that I would describe myself.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like embracing that uniqueness that we all have.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Exactly.
great. And oh, aware. You said aware, correct?
Yeah, my best friend labeled me radically self-aware a few years ago, and I think it's a double-edged sword, but it's one of my favorite things about myself is that I am pretty aware of like who I am and who I want to be, and it's really helped me navigate through life, and it's kind of like an easier way once I accepted that.
Yeah, like having that personal awareness, it helps you make decisions. It helps clarify where you want to go in life.
Hmm. Exactly.
Wow. Um, so it sounds like I know personally for me, you've inspired me in many ways just by sharing your story. sharing your journey on Instagram. And like, who is your favorite mentor? Because you're kind of one of my mentors a little bit, with
Aw.
that. Because you share, and it has inspired me. And I know I've sent you messages
Yeah.
over the years just being like, you've got it. You've got some really inspiring things to say. So, like, who is someone that inspires you? Who is one of your mentors?
Yeah, so I don't have anyone extremely close besides my therapist.
Okay.
She is an exceptional human being. Like, I found her in a time where I was very lost, and I'm almost gonna cry because I think she's like the most amazing human being in the entire world, and she's really helped me embrace who I am and like truly accept it
Mhm.
because it's such a hard thing sometimes. Being authentic can be really hard because it's scary because you have to confront
Yeah.
things about yourself. So she's one of my closest mentors. Um, and then Maya Angelou. I listen to her every single time I'm having a bad
Uh-huh.
day. I've read all of her stuff. I'm just deeply inspired by her. In the fact that she is a very authentic human being. So even though she as well put all this stuff out there about her life that many people would not believe, where she became pregnant as a teenager and she was involved in prostitution and she did drugs and all these things. And we think of our heroes, or at least I used to think of heroes as like these very perfect people.
Right.
And
Very
really
pious.
not, yeah, it's not the case at all. It's actually very more like it's just more authentic knowing that someone is very imperfect and was able to become such like a good role model and like mentor for so many people. And that's kind of like what I want to be.
Yeah, Maya Angelou ended up, I know she's a poet, and I have some of her like inspirational cards that I keep with me, but she also wrote the inaugurational poem for Bill Clinton, I believe.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so she's amazing. I did not know that she like was into drugs, so to speak. So it is like you said, it's kind of nice to see that these people overcame all of these things and that they were imperfect and that they kind of drew on that at some point.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And your therapist as well has helped you through many different things, and also embracing yourself and helping you become that radically self-aware person that you are.
Yeah, one of the practices that she has like really instilled is radical acceptance. So it's been helpful. It's been really helpful. And she navigates it in her own way. I was really wanting to find a Black therapist.
Hmm.
And she's actually not Black, but she has Black children and she was adopted by a
Okay.
Black family. And so she can really relate to like the
Wow.
microaggressions and like the cultural context of my life because I was
Yeah.
raised by I'm mixed, so I was raised by a white mother. So there's like that complexity, right? So I'm like I'm not
Hmm.
Black and I'm not white, and so um, sometimes those nuances can like trigger my anxiety, and it's just really helpful to have someone like her. I
Yes,
recognize
especially since she can understand that.
yeah, yeah,
It does take kind of having those real life experiences to connect with and understand deeply some of the microaggressions that you might experience being from a mixed race background.
yeah. Uh,
So, while we're getting a little bit deeper into your story, what would you mind sharing a difficult experience that you had and how you handled it?
yeah, so I recently, and I say recent as in about a year ago, got out of a very like emotionally unhealthy relationship. And it
Hmm.
took me like 3 years of therapy to even get to the point to realize that I was not the problem. Um, and so navigating that, I had to give myself a lot of grace. I had to really learn that it's okay that I choose certain people to be around me, or I've made choices in my life. But it's really about going like forward. And so I worked with my therapist and I really focused more on myself and what I have control over. And so when I dealt with that situation and when I'm dealing with new people, the thing I focus on is enforcing boundaries within myself
Hmm.
and setting those boundaries and then enforcing them and setting them with other people. And as I did that in my relationship, I found how hard it was for someone to respect those boundaries. And so now I know that when I come in contact with someone or I have this connection with someone and they refuse to respect my boundaries, there has to be a consequence. And so the consequence is you don't get to have access to me anymore. And so that's kind of how I have aligned myself now with the connections that I make, whether they're friends, business partners, or like romantic relationships,
Mm-hmm.
is making sure I'm staying true to myself by setting and enforcing my own boundaries and then doing that with them also.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of work too, like inner work. You were able to shore up your own emotions and create, like you said, this consequence where it's like, all right, if you don't respect my boundaries, then you don't get access to me, and that takes a lot of emotional energy as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I really underestimated how much emotional labor went into going into therapy and dedicating yourself to yourself,
Hmm.
because you have to be honest with why you want things. So why do you allow people to cross boundaries? Like, what are you gaining from it? And that was like something that took me a long time, but I also recognized I had gone a long time in my life without doing those things. And so the 2 or 3 years that I was putting these things into practice and they weren't perfect was still progress. And it eventually got me out of the situation. And now I'm in a very good situations, and it can make me cry. It's so heartwarming to see, like, one of the things that I get stuck on, or not really stuck on, but I love, is looking at situations and realizing how I'm doing them better than I've done in the past.
Wow, that is very powerful. Having that, like, I know that awareness is how you would describe yourself, but that is definitely being radically self-aware to see how far you've come, how much you've learned, and how much you've grown too, as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, the idea that setting boundaries t takes a lot of time, and like, what what did you get out of letting those people cross those boundaries and then unpacking that and then having to heal that aspect of yourself and address that aspect? That is a form of radical self-awareness, yeah. So, do you think that these experiences really help you in your professional life?
Oh yeah. So I actually have a lot, well, I have a lot of anxiety and I
Okay.
work at a very stressful job. So I'm a business insurance analyst, and every day I work with agents and I get to determine whether they get to keep a commission on a policy or not. And sometimes that comes up with conflict. And one of my things I've really had to work through is I used to be a very big people pleaser. And so I was a yes man. And in my previous role, I was the yes man. I got things done for agents. And now I have to be somebody who's like, no, this is not what we can do. It's not within our guidelines. It's not within my boundaries, right? I'm not going to cross this boundary in order to allow you to do something. So it's helped my conflict resolution in that way. And also just
Wow.
being able to understand that when someone's really angry at you, they're not really angry at you, they're projecting their own
Hmm.
fear onto you. And so you can kind of like, I don't like to use the word manipulate, but kind of manipulate the conversation in a way so they can like ease that anxiety and let them down a little bit easier than I probably would have in the past.
Right. So this idea that your practice with your personal boundaries has really helped you with your professional boundaries and helped you understand conflict in the professional setting as them not necessarily anything to do with you personally, but that they're angry about something within their own abilities, or you're able to utilize your conflict resolution skills now to help them understand, like, hey, I'm unable to do this for you. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, and sometimes you kind of have to leave it that way. Also just like with work in general, setting boundaries and saying like, that's something I can't do. No, I can't help you with this. No, I don't have the capacity to take on more work. Or no, I'm not going to work this weekend because I have plans. Or really just saying like that I can't do this. No. And I used to be that person at work that said Yeah, I'll take it on. Yes, I'll take it
Mhm.
on. Yes, I'll take it on. But I realized that in my personal life, I can't give from an empty cup. And so the same thing is at work. I can't give help to somebody if I'm drowning in my own work.
Right. Especially if you feel like burnt out, you might end up getting burnt out and not having enough energy.
Yeah, and that takes a physical toll on your body. So we have to like look at these things as like a holistic concept and really try to practice them in like all areas of our life.
That was really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like a lot of people really needed to hear that too. It's like okay to have boundaries and to stick with those boundaries.
Yeah.
So I know that as you've been progressing on your journey, as you've been learning all these different things, you probably had fears come up. So what would you say is your greatest fear and how do you mitigate that?
So one of my greatest fears is the fear of being inauthentic. It makes me like cringe. Sometimes even when I forget things, like if I forgot I said something, I'm like, oh, I didn't say that, and I go back and remember, I feel bad. Um, but I have to give myself grace, remembering that sometimes we forget things. But it's really,
Hmm.
I don't want to be on my deathbed and regret not being true to myself or living my life for somebody else. And so one of my fears is losing myself because I was in a relationship where I felt like I was not being true to myself. And I felt like I was losing myself. So that has been my greatest fear. Um, but also just kind of been a leader within my life because I grew up in an area where being my authentic self was not necessarily appreciated or
Okay.
accepted.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I found healing in Maya Angelou and people who are authentically themselves. And so I kind of mitigate the fear by doing the fear. So I post things that make me cringe. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. It's like, yeah, who if someone remembers this 70 years from now, like that's weird. So I kind of just do the hard things. And sometimes I have to work through it. It's not perfect, but I do force myself to do all of my anxious thoughts and fears.
So you're afraid of being inauthentic, but when you are authentic, you feel a little cringy sometimes.
A little
But
bit.
that's because you're trying to be your authentic self despite what everybody else says. And I guess that's like a little bit of that like people pleasing aspect that you're still working through.
Yeah, yeah, it's like this cognitive dissonance. Since I've been in it for so long, right? When you finally choose something different, your brain's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Should we do this? Like, should we really do this? And but when you start unpacking like what that fear is, like what someone thinks you're weird, cool, I am weird.
Hmm.
Someone doesn't like you, cool, not everybody's gonna like me. But I used to be somebody who wanted everybody to like me because if they don't like me, then there's something wrong with me.
Hmm.
But honestly, I think if you don't like me, you're weird. So like it's fine. Like sometimes energies don't match.
Hmm.
But yeah, exactly that.
So it seems like your brain is, it's helping you survive by trying to be like, are you sure you want to do this? And you're like, yes, I am sure I want to do this because I want to attract people who are going to like me for who I am.
Hmm.
And if you don't like me, that's cool. Go fish in another pond.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because I think that there are a lot of people, myself included, I value authenticity, but I do often have those moments where I'm like, should I say this, or should I post this? Like, what if they think this or what if they think that? But in the end, like you said, who's going to remember it 70 years from now? And if they do, that's kind of a little weird.
Yeah,
The only person that's going to remember it is you, and that's who's important in this moment.
exactly.
So, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I would love to be somewhere warm. But mostly, I really just want to be doing more of what I love. More of what I love and less of the things that I just kind of tolerate because I need to get by. So I would love to be feeding people more. I would be love to having more of these discussions, making more
Hmm.
jewelry, feeling more authentic, and connecting with people that are like-minded and have similar goals and visions and things like that. Um, One of my dreams that's not going to happen in 5 years is to have like a commune of
Oh, yeah.
beautiful people that we can just like grow food together and cook together and all these things. That would be
Create
really,
a micro society.
yeah, exactly.
That's amazing because I know that you want to nourish people not only with food but also with these really radical beliefs of self-acceptance. I know that you had posted something recently that really like helped me understand about weight, like weight gain and weight loss, and that we should just really feel comfortable in our bodies and just have that idea that we just need to be healthy and happy.
Yeah, that's something that I've been really working on. And I actually was talking with my therapist yesterday about body image, and I didn't realize how distorted or disordered my thoughts were about it.
Mhm.
I grew up, I was very heavy set. I was always overweight. I played sports, but I just really failed to like lose weight. And then I like went to the doctor, found out I had like PCOS and all these hormonal imbalances
Oh,
that led to
okay.
these things. And I started my weight loss journey. And I lost over 120 pounds. And I became kind of obsessed with people being shocked at how much weight I could lose.
Oh.
This idea of healthiness.
Mhm.
And then I was in this relationship where someone had ideals of what my body should look like. So when I left that relationship, I had this fear of gaining weight. I remember gaining like 7 pounds and crying about these 7 pounds in therapy. And I really had to start unpacking why it was so important to me that this person could never find out that I gained weight. And
Oh.
really realizing and unpacking my old thought processes around food and diet culture and the things that we say are healthy. So I allowed myself to gain more weight, and it was this uncomfortable thing, right? Because I like doing things that are uncomfortable on purpose.
Yeah.
So I let myself gain weight, and then I surrounded myself with people who had no care in the world about what the number on the scale looks like. And my thought processes started changing, and I started looking at myself, and I started realizing, oh my God, I like myself in the way that I look. And sometimes it is setting that boundaries. If someone's saying mean things to you, cut them off because people
Mhm.
do get in your head, right? And so I wanted to kind of like embrace the fact that it's okay to want to lose weight. It's okay to gain weight. It's okay to not care at all. The only thing that matters is that you are happy and healthy, because am I really going to die? I don't want to die thinking, man, I never got skinny enough or I never had abs, because like who cares? I don't want to do the work for abs. It's too much work for me. I like bread, I like potatoes. So I've been eating them and they look great on me. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's something I've really been embracing and kind of like unpacking, and I want to like create this like culture where it's okay to talk about food and our food issues, because I realize it's more common than I had believed.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot more common. People do have, like you said, like unhealthy thought processes about food, unhealthy attachments to weight gain or weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even personally for me, I'm pregnant and I've gained probably like 40 pounds. And so that's like new for me. And I didn't realize that I had these beliefs about weight until I
Really?
went through that. And I had to do a lot of like self-talk and unpacking and being like, I'm healthy. This is healthy weight. There's nothing wrong with this,
Yeah.
and it's okay. It's totally okay. And so that's really why your story impacted me because
Aw.
it is something that's really different to be okay with where you're at in your body.
That's really great. And congratulations. I was so excited for you. Oh
Yeah.
my God. That's exactly it. And I had to like realize like when you gain 5 pounds on the scale overnight, you're not gaining 5 pounds. There's no way unless you ate like
No.
1,000 calories the night before. It's water weight. Now I eat enough for my body. I have lots of energy and I feel good. That's the difference. You know what I mean? So you're harboring this little baby in your belly and you're feeding it and you're nourishing it, and if the weight comes off, it doesn't matter. If it's like if it does, great. But neither one of that, as long as you're happy and healthy and you're loving that little babe, you'll be good.
Right? That's all that really matters. And like I think that that's the important thing about it is like your mindset and that health aspect. You know, like you said, you have energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you feel good in your body. You're not really feeling lethargic or sick, you know, and I think that that's really the takeaway, is to be that healthy. So while we're talking about this, what do you think is your key to success? Like, what do you think really helps you thrive or succeed?
I had to think about this. I think it's also a fear, my fear of failure. I fear at failing at being myself. I never want to be anybody else. I really like myself. And I think that the more I get to know myself, I feel closer to myself. And nobody can take that away from me.
That's really powerful. That reminds me of a quote. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's the idea that, like, I think it was something my dad told me or something, where it's like they can take away your physical belongings, they can take away the things that outside of you, but they can never take away your mind. And so that you should always enhance the mind.
Yeah, because it's really about like evolving our thought processes and becoming more in tune with like our own desires and ego.
Mm-hmm. And that's helped you. I know it's like a fear, but it's also helped you overcome many fears and also overcome, and not only that, but you've probably utilized that in your healing journey all throughout those years while you were in therapy and everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. I need to be hyper independent, which is not always the greatest thing, right? So this thing of coming home to myself and finding peace within myself, because regardless of what's happening in our lives, we may or may not have control over. We have control over how we respond to it and how we treat ourselves. I can't, force someone to treat me a certain way. I can put up boundaries, but then that
Hmm.
shows self-love from my end, is I'm putting up that boundary. Um, yeah, exactly.
That's radical, like the idea that, you use boundaries to treat other people how to or teach other people how to treat you, but you don't, that's as far as you go. Like you're not actually going any further than that to like help that person out.
Oh yeah, I'm not doing the emotional labor for others anymore. That is not a thing I do.
Hmm.
I will do the emotional labor for myself, and if they need help, they can find a therapist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah, because that's part of the journey, right? Is that you can say like, well, this is one way that you can heal, but I'm not going to walk those steps for you. You have to take that
Yeah.
journey yourself.
Yeah. And that can be really hard for people, especially if they're friends of yours or close to you. You want them to feel better and be better, right? But
Hmm.
ultimately, we're all responsible for ourselves.
Yeah, kind of like you want to rescue them from their pain,
Hmm.
but they ultimately have to have their own lifesaver or their own toolkit to use to help themselves. Otherwise, they're going to keep putting themselves back into that situation.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a couple of high vibe humans tuning in today, and we really thank you guys for tuning in. So, did you have any advice for the high vibe humans tuning in today?
Just embrace yourself, honestly. It's really what I've been doing, embracing who I am and all the ugly parts and all the good parts, and kind of really starting to love what I thought were ugly parts, like being sensitive. And I cry so easily at television, like so easily. But being sensitive means that you can really start to empathize with people. And so there's this thing. So with radical acceptance, it's we tend to have a way to think black and white. Everything has like there's a positive and then there's a negative. It's just how we choose to look at it. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's two things I'll leave you with. One of them is my favorite quote, which is, I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. And that means that if we can think of the most heinous crime and say, I could never do that, that's not true, because if another human being did it, that means you could do it too. But what
Mm-hmm.
you're really saying is that I am choosing to use my energies constructively as opposed to destructively.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the opposite end, right? So if another human being dared to come out of the conditions in which they were born into, then so can I. And that like thing in itself has been so incredibly healing for me, to accept and validate my own feelings as a human being and to feel less alone.
Wow.
So that's number one. And then number two is I don't like the saying if everything happens for a reason, because like I just don't. I like to say if it could have happened another way, it would have. And that gets me out of a lot of anxious situations.
That is a powerful way, a change, shift in perspective. If it could have happened another way, it would have.
Yeah.
And it kind of shifts it in um, back, just like away from the idea that there's this fantasy, like something,
Hmm.
some mystical, something invisible hand at work, back into, this is the reality of the situation.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I really thank you for sharing that quote. One more time for the high vibe humans about being human.
Okay, I'll say it in both ways. So I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. And it's by a Latin playwright called Terence. And it's Homo sum humani nihil me alienum puto. So I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me.
That really hits home because, like you said, I think it helps people understand that we're all capable of a whole spectrum of emotions and feelings and experiences,
Yeah.
and that it's not that strange to see somebody else going through something.
Yeah, we're not the only ones suffering. It's not
Mhm.
invalidating. It's really, truly validating that we're not alone. Our experiences are unique, but we can find comfort in feeling less alone, and we can kind of just even internalize a small portion of that.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing all of that with us tonight.
thank you.
If you want, you can take a moment right now to give a shout out to some of your social media for anybody that wants to connect with you deeper.
Well, they can do that. I don't know how.
Perfect. Yeah, just click on healing joy, right?
Yeah, healing dot. Wait, actually, I have lots of them. It might be the other way around. True Joy Healing or healing dot True Joy.
Uh-huh.
We'll link
Healing dot true joy
it.
is the one that we're on right now.
Okay, there you go.
Perfect. And I look forward to connecting with you more, not just on the platform, but off this platform as well. So thank you again, and thank you for everybody tuning in. And
Thank you.
we will see you on another day.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great night.
Bye.